What is good, everybody, man? How are you guys doing? It's been a minute. I think it's been almost a month since I've done a live stream. It's been way, way too long in the making. So appreciate all y'all tuning in. I know it's a busy night. We got the finals, College World Series, all kind of stuff tonight. So appreciate y'all tuning in here. We're gonna get everything wrapped up by about 7:30, I would say, just so we can all go watch the finals and all that kind of stuff. But as y'all know, we've been revamping and launching the website and put in a lot of work to that. So shout out to all of you guys who have tuned into the website along with our YouTube channel. We already have, I believe, almost 5,000 page clicks, and it's been maybe a week and a half of the website launching. So shout out to you guys for that. If you're looking for more recruiting content, polls, things like that, you can find all that on the website along with what we do already do on the YouTube front. Call in numbers on the top left. And if you haven't got to read it yet, we just launched our first or our inaugural Bluebloods preseason HBCU top 10. The FCS top 25 is coming later this week, or probably maybe even early next week, but I'll let y'all know about that. We're going to be dropping polls all year long until we get on that official voting list for the FCS poll and everything like that. But let's go through the rankings just in case you haven't seen it. And if you're in the chat, I'll link the article in the chat already. You can go check it out on our website while you watch the show. And let's get into this list, man. At number 10, I have Norfolk State. And this was a tough one. I think when you look at the end of the list and probably in that top five range were arguably the hardest positions to kind of dish out. But for me, I couldn't put Norfolk any higher than 10 because I do think losing Jawan Carter at quarterback is really going to hurt them in the long run. I think that's an experienced guy, 4-year starter, I believe was the MEAC Offensive Player of the Year this past year. They lost a lot of talent, man. Now, on that defensive side of the football, you do lose to Sean Dixon and some of those guys, but the secondary is strong for Norfolk State. Right now, I like them at 10. I think personally, they can hop up in my rankings throughout the year. But right now, man, with what they lost on the offensive side of the ball with an experienced quarterback, I couldn't put them any higher than 10. Now, number 9, this might surprise some people. I don't think HBCU Game Day or anyone had them in their poll, and it really surprised me. I had some people reach out. I did my research before this poll. North Carolina Central is going to be a problem, in my opinion. When you look at what they did last year, beating Alcorn and going, I believe, 4-1 in the MEAC, they were one game away beating South Carolina State from winning the MEAC championship and going to the Celebration Bowl. So I love what North Carolina Central's bringing. They're bringing back their leading rusher, a top quarterback from last year. They're returning almost all their starters on defense. I believe 8 of 11 starters on the defensive side of the ball NCCU is bringing back. I love what this team is built of, man. They're just that tough, grimy, grinded out type of team. I love it, man. I love what North Carolina Central's putting out there. 8, I like what Grambling's doing, man. They have a lot of unknowns, in my opinion, but I do like what Grambling brought in this offseason. I think they upgraded at the quarterback spot at multiple, I mean, really and truly with multiple guys. I think Amani Gilmore. I think you look at the kid from Syracuse they landed just the other day. I think when you look at Holloway coming in at the quarterback spot, love what Grambling's doing on the offensive side of the ball. I think Maurice Washington might be one of the most impactful transfers in the SWAC this upcoming year. Running back, you look at Boudreaux at the wide receiver spot, J.R. Waters, a former 4-star from Oregon. I think the offense for Grambling, which was the question, really and truly, the question was, what is that offense going to be? I believe they had more interceptions than passing touchdowns last year. They were the worst passing offense in the SWAC. Didn't have enough of a run game to, I would say, put them over the top. Now on the defensive side, Sunyata Anderson at defensive end might be one of the top defensive ends in the FCS. Man, that guy can get after the quarterback. I know Isaiah Land and Jordan Lewis get a lot of the shine, but Anderson over there at Grambling is a problem coming off the edge. Now, In the secondary, I do like what they brought in. They brought in, I believe, two four-star transfers in the secondary. Their linebacking spot already was strong coming in from last year. So I think Grambling, given that these transfers have to pan out, I think just due to the sheer amount of talent they brought in on the offensive side of the ball, along with getting an upgraded head coach with Hugh Jackson, was enough for me to put them in my number 8 spot. Now at 7, Alabama A&M. Now, I don't know if you guys heard the news today. I didn't make an episode on it just because I was busy getting this list together. But Jaron Williams, the transfer from Miami and I believe Central Florida, has announced his retirement from football. He cited mental health issues as one of the reasons he was stepping away. And I talked to one of the coaches on the staff, and he said that the coaching staff fully supports him stepping away from football. They said it could have been a very bad situation, just in terms of his personal life, man. And so I want to shout out Jaron Williams for speaking out on his mental health and taking the steps necessary to protect himself and protect, the number one thing, which is your mental health. That comes before anything. And these guys are more than just athletes, man. And so shout out to him. But to get to Alabama A&M, I wanted to have them higher, but the same reason I didn't have Norfolk as high is losing a player the caliber of Akil Glass at the quarterback spot is hard to replace. Now, I like what Quincy Casey brings, but right now, man, he doesn't have the, I would say, experience in Maynard's system, the accolades behind his name, and he hasn't done it on the field yet. And so I really think that loss of Akil Glass is going to be a problem. Also, you lose D. Anderson, you lose Odell Hilaire at the wide receiver spot, another All American. They experienced some big losses. They had an offensive lineman enter the transfer portal today as well. They lose, I believe, two starters already from that starting offensive line last year. They got a lot of losses that they have to make up for right now, which is why I have them at 7. The defensive side, I believe I put an article. They brought in 28 right now defensive transfers, not even including any recruits from high school that they brought in. That entire defense is going to be completely rebuilt from the ground up. I mean, they honestly could be one of the few teams where they walk out there week 1 and they have 11 new starters on one side of the football. That's the type of turnover you're going to get at Alabama A&M. Now, I do think they brought in some high caliber guys. I believe they had 6 4-stars that they former 4-stars that they brought in. But again, like I said, they have to pan out, and that's the big question with Alabama A&M is, are those guys going to gel together over the summer and improve the defense? So I think this is another team that has a lot of room to move up in these rankings, but right now, just because they haven't proved it, I think I'm going to keep them here at 7. Now, this is where it got tough. Okay. I'm going to be honest. 6 through about 2 was so hard, man. I think I went back and forth, and these teams changed spots probably 10 times before I posted my final poll. But at 6, I'm going to put North Carolina A&T right now. They've returned their top quarterback. They've returned a few of their slot guys. They lose their top wide receiver in Corey Banks and Ron Hunt. They also lose Jermaine Martin to the NFL, which was a huge loss. I mean, we know Jermaine Martin, one of the player of the years, a multi-time All-American at that running back spot. Giant loss for them. But the reason I'm going to keep them up here is they're returning a lot of talent on the offensive line and in that defensive room. Just in general, they've returned some of their top leading tacklers from last year. The linebacking spot is loaded for North Carolina A&T. But what kept them below some of the teams above them is the fact that I didn't think they brought in as many immediate impactful additions to this team as some of the teams that you're going to see above them. So for me, when I look at probably 2 or 3 to about 6, these teams are very comparable on the field, I think, in terms of if they played, it would be a close game. But I had to go by who they were bringing in and the coaching staff as well. So North Carolina A&T just didn't do it on the recruiting trail compared to some of these teams in front of them. And that brings me to Southern. And I'm going to be honest, out of all the teams on this list, Southern was the one I had the hardest time ranking. I could not decide where I wanted Southern. I had them as high as 2 in my rankings and as low as 5. That I just couldn't decide where I wanted them, but due to the uncertainty of quarterback, I'm gonna put them at 5 because all the top 4 teams above them have their answer at quarterback already solved. They either have a returning quarterback or landed a transfer that's just an immediate impact player. But for me, Southern got put above A&T. I see the comments already um, say saying that North Carolina T should be higher. I do think it's debatable, but when you look at the Dumas edition, you look at the Corian Harris edition, both multi-time All-Americans, and then you also look at Trey Lang and some of those other players they brought in. They brought in more talent than North Carolina A&T, and that's the reason I'm going to have them up there. They arguably have one of the best defensive lines in the FCS. Jordan Lewis, Trey Lang, and Jason Dumas are one of the biggest three-headed monsters in the FCS. They are going to get after some quarterbacks. And I was texting with CFL and Cut Day and everyone, and we were talking about how dominant that Jason Dumas performance was against Jackson State. It arguably was the most dominant SWAC performance this year by any player in the SWAC. I mean, he absolutely was beating triple and double teams all game long and single-handedly kept them in the game. It just in my opinion. So I do think Southern right now is my favorite to win the West Division. But right now, top to bottom roster wise, they have a better roster than A&T, just in my opinion. But I do see that A&T and Southern are very, very close right now. But just due to the Dumas, Corian Harris, and some of those pickups, I'm going to give Southern the slight edge. At 4, this is going to be controversial. And let me explain it. That's why I wanted to do a live show. I'm putting South Carolina State at 4. And the reason I'm putting them at 4 is I get it. Everyone says because they won the Celebration Bowl, they should be number 1 or number 2. But for me, I'm not basing it all off that one game. They also got blown out by FAMU. They also got beat by Alabama A&M. They went 2-5 out of conference. They also lost to North Carolina A&T last year. So for me, this argument that South Carolina State beat Jackson State, so they should be number 1, is false because if you're going off of who beat who, then FAMU, Alabama A&M, and North Carolina A&T should be above South Carolina State. And so for me, looking at it, they won the Celebration Bowl and they're going to be in my top 4. But I still have questions about how they're going to replace, in my opinion, one of the most impactful defensive players at the FCS, Jacoby Durant. You lose his partner in crime, Zafir Kelly. You lose Gilchrist, your top linebacker. I get it. You have a young offense, but for me, I need to see more out of Corey Fields throughout the whole season at quarterback. And I do think that they have Shaq Davis at wide receiver, which is a huge boost for them. But they did lose Will Vereen too at the wide receiver spot. For me, I need to see a full season out of South Carolina State before I put them any higher, man. It was great. They dominated Jackson State in the Celebration Bowl. I believe in the article I put they were 10 and a half point underdogs to Jackson State. They embarrassed Jackson State, were just more physical, all that. But they also got beat the same way by FAMU. In the middle of the season, they got beat by Alabama A&M. North Carolina A&T dominated them as well. So for me, I think the totality of their resume speaks louder than just one game. I do think they're a young team. We'll see what Corey Fields is like. Kentrell Flowers is back at the running back spot. Jablowski at the defensive end spot comes back in a big way. But questions at linebacker, questions at cornerback. Yes, they do have one of the best coaches in FCS and Buddy Pugh, but for me, it's still not enough to put them in my top 3. And then this one I know is going to get a lot of comments. I got FAMU at number 3. And I just did a quick top 5 on my Twitter a while back. Coach KJ Black reached out to me. A bunch of FAMU players saw it. But for me, looking at FAMU, there are QB questions. You do have Rashawn McKay. If he wins that starting job, can go on. You got junior, I believe it's Maravich, who played a little bit in the Jackson State game, and you brought in Jeremy Musa from Vanderbilt coming in. So we'll see who starts at quarterback. All of them have their pluses. All of them have some of their negatives on the flip side. The big thing is they do lose Bishop Bonnet at the running back spot. They bring in Terrell Jennings, and also Jalen McLeod comes back. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Destin Coates is out for the season. I believe he got hurt in spring practice. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, if you're watching, but I did get a tip that Destin Coates is probably out for the season with an injury. So we'll kind of see what it is there. The strength of FAMU is going to be their wide receiving core. Xavier Smith became a graduate student, used that, I believe, 6 year of eligibility. So they're returning all of their wide receivers. I'm talking about everybody. They're returning their tight ends, everything. I mean, I believe 6 out of the top 7 pass catchers last year are all coming back, and the one that isn't is like Bishop Bonnet, who has played a big part of the receiving game. So they return a lot of talent at wide receiver. Now replacing Keenan Forbes and J. Jackson Williams is going to be a tough task, but I still like what they bring on the offense side of the ball. But FAMU at the quarterback spot does scare me a little bit. Now, the big question mark on defense for me is the opposite defensive end spot across from Isaiah Land. I think you got Isaiah Land on one side, Gentle Hunt at defensive tackle, and then the other two spots are really up in the air. You lose Savion Williams. You lose, I believe it was Deontay Williams at the other defensive end spot. We thought Raymond Cutts was going to come in and start there. He did. I believe he has some academic things that are going to keep him in JUCO for one more season. He won't be there till next year. So they do have a large hole across from Isaiah Land and next to Gentle Hunt. And you've got to remember, man, I really do think people forget how big of a role Savion played in helping Landon Hunt get off on the defensive line, man. Hunt and Savion were huge, intricate pieces to the Buck Buchanan Award season by Isaiah Land. And now teams are going to start scheming for him. So I'm questioning who they have across from him. They lost both. I believe they lost both starting linebackers, Merriweather and another guy. They bring in Isaiah Majors in there, but we'll see how he develops. I really like him out at Indy Community College. In the secondary, though, the reason I have them at 3 is I think you got one replacement in Jordan Moore, but how do you replace Antoine Collier and Marquise Bell? Those might have been two of the biggest losses in the SWAC in the offseason, man. I mean, both, especially Marquise Bell, the experience, the scheme fit, and on top of that, when I thought of the FAMU defense, the face of that defense was number 5. Like if you asked an average fan, name a player on FAMU's defense last year, they would have said Marquise Bell. Like that's how impactful he was. So I'm really interested to see there. You got Bowler at the corner spot, but outside of Bowler, I don't know who you're going to have across from him. They have some guys who I've been told could have breakout seasons, but we'll kind of see there. And in at number 2, this is going to be the most controversial pick. If you read the article, this is going to be the one everyone is going to want me to justify, and I got the facts to justify it. I'm putting Tennessee State at number 2. And yes, I get it. I had a North Carolina A&T guy message me on Twitter and say, well, they didn't have a great record last year. This is the team, in my opinion, that I see taking the Jackson State leap in 2022 in the OVC. They should run through the OVC outside of maybe UT Martin, and I still think they could win that game. When you listen, when you look at, let me just tell y'all, they got an All-American quarterback now in Draylon Ellis, who just won the Big South Player of the Year just not too long ago at Austin Peay. They returned their All-American running back, FCS All-American running back. They've returned their All-American wide receiver, their OVC All-American wide receiver. They return an All-American offensive lineman, along with landing impact guys like Rod Green from Grambling, former 3-star. They got 3 All-American defensive linemen now after their addition of Terrell Allen from Austin Peay, and they got 2 returning All-American defensive linemen coming in from last year. You got an All-American linebacker coming back, along with 4-star Kayvon Pope from Ohio State. And you got an All-American cornerback to add to Jashawn Watkins, 4-star from Memphis. And also, I'm blanking on the kid's name. There was another 3-star transfer that they got at the other corner position. The only position I'm worried about is that other safety spot. They had Corey Raymond. I know a lot of you guys remember him. He's now in the USFL. He was a multi-time All-American. They lost at that safety spot, and that's really the only other position I'm worried about for them. But when I look at rosters from top to bottom, Tennessee State has more All-Americans than anybody else in this poll. They have more All-Americans on their team total than Jackson State does. and they got a four-star wide receiver from Georgia. Yes, thank you, Nicholas, for reminding me about that. So I think Tennessee State right now is the second best team in HBCU football right now in talent wise, and they play in a pretty good conference in the OVC. They also got to go play Eastern Washington on the road week 1. They get Jackson State week 2, and then they have an FBS team, Middle Tennessee State week 3. That schedule is going to be brutal. But when you look at their additions and you look at all the accolades and the proven transfers they landed along with all the All-Americans they're returning, I like Tennessee State. And this is my limb I'm going to go on this year. They aren't going to be, the next Jackson State or whatever. I think they take that jump though, where we saw Jackson State in the spring really get beat get beat multiple times. A lot of people were questioning Coach Prime and everything like that. I think Tennessee State did the exact same thing Dion did over that first off season and went and got some real athletes that were proven transfers. And so I know a lot of people won't agree with me on that, but when I look at the stats and I look at just who they brought in, I like Tennessee State at 2, man. I really, really do. And finally, man, Jackson State, number 1. Listen, this was coming. Y'all knew it. I get labeled a Jackson State hater a lot, but Jackson State has the best team right now in all of HBCU football, man. When you look at this team from Shador Sanders, Jerry Rice Award winner, landing All-American from the MEAC, Savion Wilkerson at the running back spot, you return Malachi Wadman. You return Trevante Rucker. You return Shane Hooks while also landing Kevin Coleman, potentially even Travis Hunter playing some offense. And then at the offensive line spot, I love the Tyler Brown addition. I like Zach Bro, Evan Henry, all 3 of those transfers. Simi Moala's got some rave reviews from some people. We'll see what they do with that other tackle spot. But I do think they brought in higher quality guys on the offensive line. And that was my biggest thing in terms of why I didn't love, that Jackson State team at times last year. That offensive line just aggravated me beyond belief, man. But Jackson State's O line should be better this year. The defensive line, I'm going to tell y'all, the defensive end spot is the one spot I'm looking at is who's going to step up. I think when you look at that defensive line, you've got Katron Evans, you've got Devontae Davis, who are going to be the first 2 guys at that defensive tackle spot. You've got some depth behind them and True Thompson. And I believe I'm blanking on the other guy's name. They had another defense tackle come in. So they got about 4 guys there. Niles Gaddy's going to have 1 DN spot. You've got Antonio Doyle at the other one. From what I'm hearing, he's getting a lot of looks in practice, but are they going to have the depth and rotation that they had at the defensive end spot last year? When you look at James Houston and Antoine Owens leaving, those guys were so impactful, man. I really don't think people are they don't understand how much that departure meant, especially Antoine. I know James Houston is going to be loved forever by Jackson State fans. People forget how good Antoine Owens was. That dude was a dog when he got to go play defensive tackle. I'm hoping that's where he winds up in wherever he goes and plays professionally. I really think Antoine Owens, when he played at defensive tackle and you had James Houston on the edge, that was the scariest sight for any offense that Jackson State played last year. The linebacking spot, we know the name. It's Aubrey Miller. It's going to be Aubrey Miller. And listen, whoever they put next to him, Aubrey Miller is probably going to show him the way. I love Aubrey Miller as a linebacker, man. If you cannot have a better Mike linebacker right now than Aubrey Miller, and then the secondary, we know what it is. You're going to have Nugget Island on one side, Travis Hunter on the other, well, on top of all the people you can put in the slot, and then the safety spot. I know this. I know I said it in the episode. I dropped on it. I really do think. I know. Shiloh's experiencing some injuries. When he comes back, it's going to be hard to see the field. Greg Great and Cam are going to be the 2 guys at safety, in my opinion. Those are the 2 guys that I think are the best safeties on Jackson State's team. I know Shiloh's going to get his moments and all that, but for me, just from a pure talent perspective, I'll take Great and Cam over anybody else on that roster. I really do. I mean, I've looked at the film. I think those 2 guys are going to be the guys. Great has the coverage ability to go along with Cam's ability to get in the box and knock some people out. And so I really like that one. And then yeah, you got Beasley in the slot, the Duke safety. I believe CFL broke that news. He just came to Jackson State. I don't think he dropped a commitment video. I don't think I don't think he dropped any a commitment post. I just think he's in Jackson State and no one didn't tell anybody. So that's another guy to look out for. When you look at their schedule, though, I, I'll let me find the comment. David Jackson's right here, man. For me, we're going to know everything we need to know about Jackson State after week 3. That is going to be the week where I think anybody who knows football outside of, injuries happening down the stretch are going to be able to come on here and tell you exactly how good Jackson State is. You look at that first game against FAMU in Miami, Orange Blossom Classic. We know how competitive, we know what that spectacle of an event is going to be down there against FAMU. 1 point game last year was really the only difference to see who went to the SWAC championship game. Week 2, you got to go play Tennessee State up there in Memphis. That is going to be a huge game for both teams. You're going to get Draylon Ellis versus Shador Sanders, one of the best quarterback matchups in the FCS all season long. You get two great defenses to go against those two great offenses. I'm excited. I think Tennessee State, Jackson State, just in my opinion, I'm going to release this on the website coming up soon. I got the top 10 FCS out of conference matchups. That is a top 5 matchup between FCS teams out of conference. Jackson State, Tennessee State is going to be absolutely insane. I'll be there. I'm going out of my way to go to Memphis. That game might be one of the games of the year out there in Memphis. And then week 3, you got to go play Grambling State in a big out of conference game. We know what Hugh Jackson is. Hugh Jackson versus Deion Sanders. It doesn't get any bigger than that in terms of coaching names. We get to see what that Grambling offense is going to do against a very, very talented Jackson State defense. And there's going to be a lot of questions answered about Grambling that week. And then after you get past those 3 games, you still got some tough opponents. Going down to Mobile to play that Alabama A&M team with Connell Maynard is going to be so interesting. That's my hometown. That's where I'm recording right now in Mobile. So I think that one's going to be a tough one. You still got Alcorn, and I think they renamed it, but the Soul Bowl. I think that game's going to be huge as well. So I'm really interested to see what Jackson State does, man. Yeah, Greg Wright and Cam, that's going to be a crazy duo. Man, listen, this is okay. I know a lot was made fun of and everything, and with the contract, and it got real messy. For me, with how good these two teams are looking, because you got to remember, man, both these teams are young. Traylon Ellis is just, I believe, a redshirt junior. Then Shador still has multiple years left. But all these teams are young. Their star players between Tennessee State and Jackson State are young. They got to find a way to get that game back on. I know everyone was saying bad deal, no money. That game is going to be too big over these next few years as Eddie George and Coach Prime get that momentum rolling. They got to find a way to get that game back on, man. I know it was all fun and games and jokes for a while, but looking at the trajectory of both these programs, I need to see that game, especially because Tennessee State's in the OVC. They can't go to the Celebration Bowl. So if the Southern Heritage Classic doesn't happen, that game doesn't get played unless Jackson State loses to FAMU and goes to the playoff, and somehow those teams get matched up in the first round. But they gotta do something, man. I mean, I'm cool with that, Paris. Even a home and home with Tennessee State and Jackson State. I'm cool with that. I think really and truly, I think a home and home series would do more for the two schools, because if you move the Southern Heritage Classic to Jackson, I think they damn near sell out that stadium, and both teams make a lot more money off of that. And I think it becomes a bigger spectacle anyway than even playing it in the Liberty Bowl in Memphis. So I personally think that I would be fine with the home and home. I really and truly. I mean, but this is also coming from me. If y'all have watched our show over these past 4 years or whatever, you know I'm not a fan of neutral site games. I would much rather have home and home series than a neutral site game. I don't want to go see you play in the Orange Bowl or in Atlanta. I want to see a home and home because I want to see the passion of the fans. I want to see what the culture of your stadium's like, things like that. I hate neutral site games, so I might be a little bit biased there. Yeah, I agree with home and home, win-win for both programs. SWAC West is going to be tough. Really and truly, as it's kind of played out, I was worried about the West for a little bit. But when you're looking at the West right now, or you're looking at the West and the East, man, both of them, I think the West is going to be wide open. When I look at it, Southern, Alcorn, Grambling, Texas Southern's going to be in there. We don't know what PV is going to look like now that they're completely going to be rebuilding. I think there's a lot of teams, man, that are going to find themselves in places that a lot of people didn't expect. Now, on the other side, I think the top three is clear, but then you also got the Valley and the Alabama States as your sleeper teams. I'm interested to see what they look like. So I think the East is more top heavy, but the West is more wide open. It was how I would kind of phrase it. West and East tough. Atlanta is the place to make money. That's true. I mean, I guess you can make because you look at like the MEAC SWAC Challenge and the Celebration Bowl and all that, but I still would like a home and home series, man. We got to get Tennessee State in the SWAC. It doesn't like it's going to happen. I'm going to be honest. Based on what they've been saying, um, it doesn't like it's going to happen. Also, guys, call lines are open. Y'all can call in whenever y'all want. Southern Alcorn, Texas Southern Grambling. It's a toss up. I agree on that. Let's see. I'm going to try to catch up with some of these comments. Yeah, the Campbell game is going to be interesting. I don't know if you guys have noticed. Listen, I love it. I know people have been going back and forth and everything like that, but I love the trash talk that we're getting on Twitter from Campbell fans. Let's see. We got a caller. 251. You're live.
What's up, Blue? This is Sir in the chat.
Hey, what's up, man?
All right, so I got one question, and it's about North Carolina A&T.
Okay.
So pretty much everybody who's done a ranking has North Carolina A&T in the top 10. But what about Hampton? It seems like we're giving everybody brownie points because they don't play in the SWAC and that conference is harder. Well, Hampton plays in the hardest conference out of any HBCU period. And they had the same conference record as A&T, plus they beat the hell out of them when they played them. So what about Hampton?
For me, I had Hampton as an honorable mention. I believe they were 11th or 12th on my list. For me, it was just they didn't they didn't cause any waves with recruiting, and they did lose a lot of their top talent. And so the fact that they didn't have the notoriety coming in and recruiting, I feel like for me, they got to go out on the field and play for it. But you are right; they did beat A&T. They play in the
No,
hardest
they didn't
conference
just
now.
yeah, it wasn't just a win. They beat them. I watched
Oh
that
yeah,
game. It
it
wasn't even close.
it was 30-7, right, or something like that.
I think it was 30-9, but
Yeah.
the 9 didn't even matter.
A&T had some bad losses last year. When you look at it, that Kennesaw game getting shut out is brutal.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So I get like the OVC being a very strong conference. I like that conference. I get that the Big South is a conference, but I think we kind of throwing Hampton by the wayside. I think they're a pretty good team, and I see them uh beating some of the top 10 teams in the list in some close games. That's just my opinion.
where do you think they fall in terms of the CAA right now?
They're gonna be the doormat of the CAA, but that's the CAA.
That's fair. I mean, it's still new too. I think when you look at all the teams going to the CAA, man, it's really going to come down to who puts their money up.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I definitely can agree with that.
Hey man, but I appreciate you mentioning Hampton. I know some people in the chat now are like, "Oh wait, yeah, about them, man." But hey, I appreciate the question, man.
All right, yeah, good show, man. I love what you do. Keep going.
Hey, appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
You too. I definitely can agree with that.
Hey man, but Coach Green, you're live.
People in the chat. Man, my boy Blue, what it do?
Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm looking forward to this football season.
Hey, I am too, man. I am too.
Hey, you shocked me with these rankings today. But when you break it down, I like, yeah, you're right. Because, even with the Tennessee State, I don't blame you with that. Because what they the moves they made this offseason has been pretty good.
I mean, for me, I think there's an opinion, with Jackson State, the Travis Hunter edition really kind of trumps everything. That's like their trump card for who had the best offseason.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at number 2, I don't think there's anybody who you can argue had a better offseason than Tennessee State. Maybe I think when you look at it, Southern had a really good all season, especially when you look at the Dumas edition and the Harris edition from McNeese, but they didn't land anyone in a position like a Draylon Ellis to me. And
Yeah.
so I'm gonna put Tennessee State at 2 in terms of best all season. And I know people
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
gonna look at their record and say, man, there's no way they should be number 2. But when you look at their
That's
roster
because they
going
didn't
into
watch
20,
Tennessee. That's
go ahead.
because they didn't watch Tennessee State play. I watched Tennessee State play. And a lot of them games they was in.
And then Starling, I mean, Starling's one of my favorite players.
Oh man. Woo, he's tough.
He's a dog.
He's tough.
He's such a dog, man. And they sleep on their D line too, man. Their D line got multiple All-Americans.
Now, I got a sleeper for you that, so nobody don't get shot when if they do win some games. Because of their secondary, I don't know much about their D line right now, but because of their secondary, I'm gonna say Delaware State.
I've been going back and forth, man. I can't really put my finger on what they're gonna look like. 'Cause I think if they brought back Savion, I might have had him as an honorable mention, but I still have too many question marks on how they're gonna replace him. And then also their QB play has to get a little bit better, in my opinion.
Yeah, because he was deep. The QB was decent. So it's like a way to see with them. You gotta actually see them play, and then you could actually, after probably the first 2 games, then you can probably be like, okay, now we see what they cooking with.
And for me,
because right now they like a mystery.
They are, and they had talent last year, but they couldn't put it into wins, and that's what scares me.
Yeah, because a lot of people on this, like, that's watching your show right now, they don't know about the secondary and how tough their secondary really is.
Man, there's a few teams in the MEAC. North Carolina Central, Norfolk State, and Delaware State all return multiple All-American defensive backs.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be good.
Yep.
I mean, and South Carolina State graduated there too, but I'm sure they're going to have somebody step up and try to replace Zafir and Jacoby.
And the other team I'm just waiting to see approach on is Alabama State. That's my other team.
If Davis starts, they'd be in my top 10, but I can't put him in there until he starts.
So you that high on Davis?
Yes, a dog. I got to see him in person play when I was at Auburn because I got to go see a few practices. The dude is he's built different, man. And he just got the short end of the stick at Auburn. When a legacy player comes in like that with the Bo Nix, who is a 5-star, and nobody else on the roster has a chance. Look at what happened to Malik Willis.
I'm gonna ask you this then. Since you watched him practice, did you feel like he outplayed the legacy quarterback?
Yes. I think he's a better quarterback than Bo Nix.
And he just did, and just because he wasn't a legacy, he just got the short end of the stick.
That's my opinion. I'm not going to accuse Gus Malzahn of conspiracy, but
hey, you're right. Hey, everybody got an opinion, especially if you saw it with your own eyes. I'm just asking a question because I ain't never saw the kid play with my own eyes.
For me,
you saw the kid play.
For me, it was more politics. The fact that Malik Willis couldn't even see the field over Bo Nix kind of tells you everything you need to know. Because we saw what Malik Willis was.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, there was a lot of different things. And also on top of that, at that time, Auburn had like 2 or 3 offensive coordinators in that many years. They were going through offensive coordinators like tissues, man. He just throwing them out. And so there was no continuity for a young player like that either.
And then this is my last thing I'm going to say. That a thing that helped Southern that people don't really realize, because this guy is like really good with football. The coach they brought in that came from PV was one of the coaches that pretty much helped develop Dumas. And because of him, he gonna help he gonna help Jordan become better with his technique. He ain't gonna just be he ain't gonna just beat people with just his speed. His technique gonna be better, and that's our defensive end coach Clark.
Hey, I know all about him, man. Listen, he's one of the best D line coaches in the SWAC, and to be honest, the defensive line for Southern, Coach Green, I think we could pick someone out the chat, and that defensive line might lead the SWAC in sacks. They're that good, really and truly.
Now, this is a question I'm gonna ask you. If they give, I ain't gonna say they're gonna beat them, but if that D line gives LSU a lot of problems, you won't be shocked then.
No, the D line isn't going to be the problem for Southern. I think when you look at it, they have a good center, All American. They got one more tackle returning. It's going to be, can you really replace Jatari Carter? That's going to be my question: is can you get the whole offensive line to gel like Southern had at times last year? And then the other question: are you going to have playmakers on the outside? You brought in a lot of great wide receivers this offseason, but are you going to have anyone step up? Because we saw Marquise McLean, he could ball out, but Southern didn't use him right. So my question is, now that you got Dooley in, you got this new offensive system, are those wide receivers going to be there? The playmakers are the number one question. I think Kobe Dillon, a dog at running back.
Yep.
The questions for me are the quarterback spot, wide receiver spot, and then the linebacker spot. Those are the three.
Because this is the thing about Dumas, and people need to, like, as people actually watch that Texas A&M game, they're gonna see Dumas giving that O-line hell.
Hey, listen, we saw what Dumas did last year. In every game I got to watch a Dumas, he popped off the screen. I mean, he really did. I mean, my question for you, Coach Green, who's starting at quarterback for you guys, in your opinion?
I think the kid from Hines, as of right now, the kid from Hines should be the starter.
That's the Bashan kid, right?
Yeah. But Bashan. Bashan, I think he's gonna be the starter as of right now. Because Bubba gotta be more than a game manager. Because the thing that Dooley won't, he gotta be more than a game manager. He got to go out there and win games. And the quarterback he's looking for is to go out there and win games, not manage the game.
For me, looking at the spring game, I think McCray would be my pick. The interesting thing, though, is the fact that they brought in Noah Bowden.
Yeah.
That kind of shocked me. I didn't think they were going to bring him in, to be honest with you.
I'm not shocked. I wasn't shocked when it happened. I had a feeling it was going to happen. And Dooley and his quarterback coach could help develop that kid. And this could be the year that he could sit there and learn. And then, he might win it the following year, if not this year.
Hey, we're gonna see, man. I think y'all's offense will be in better hands. I think the offense was too one-dimensional these past few years.
Oh yeah.
It was either
Dooley got a creative mind.
It was either we're going to run up the middle, run left, run right, or throw it vertical. That was it.
That's it. Dooley got an offense. He's creative. He's too creative to just keep it one dimensional.
I agree, man. We saw what he did with Pass last year.
Yeah, and Pass was not that great.
Listen, Pass was great until the SWAC championship. That SWAC championship performance still bothers me.
Oh, don't forget about WIU or UIW.
Incarnate Word. Yeah, Incarnate Word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was horrible in that game.
Yeah, they got beat 40-9.
Yeah, he threw like 4 picks.
Oh my Lord. Yeah, and Incarnate Word's defense was horrible last year.
Yeah. And he out there like, hey, you catch my pass. I don't want my receivers to catch it. That's how he was out there doing.
Hey, man, Coach Green, always appreciate your call, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem, man. No problem.
All right, guys. Call-in number is in the top left. I start a few questions. He said, Blue, what do you think about Alabama State's QB edition? Listen, love Love Davis, man. Love Davis. That's all I got to say. I think Davis should start. I did hear that Miles Crawley, I believe his name is, could compete for it, but we'll see. I still think D Davis is the guy. Deputy Mario, let me get to this caller and I'll answer that question for you. What's up, Steve? What's good?
What's going on, Blue, man? How you doing?
Hey, doing good, man. Doing good.
The boy Wonder, man. You don't have a day off, man?
Hey, man, I don't have a day off, man. This is what I do, man. This is what I do. This is what I do on my day offs.
Okay. Well, I just want to know, when are you going to start talking about the SWAC and other SBS conferences, man? Because there's some big boy balls in the SWAC, man. No point. I'm a rattler now, but I'm just saying. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, Steve, man. Definitely.
All right.
All right, man. So, Deputy Mario, what's your opinion on Tim Brewster at JSU? Listen, it's a big hire. It's pretty much like Thanos getting like the last Infinity Stone for all that, man. I mean, it's already unfair. You already got Deion Sanders in there. You already got the multiple people in the staff who are former NFL coaches, and then you add a guy who, when he was solely focusing on recruiting, he was different. I feel like as a coach, there were some people who had problems with him, but when you look at just him coming into Jackson State and being able to just focus on recruiting kids, man, it's unfair. I listen, and y'all know me. I will keep it honest with you guys that if I don't think a school's doing something good, I will call it out. Listen, it's going to be unfair. And just in terms of the recruiting battle that is coming along, it already is. You already got them landing 5 stars, and they landed 4-star Kevin Coleman last year. You look at their recruiting class now, they already got 2 more 4 stars in the next class. I believe it's Isaiah Kendall, and then I'm blanking on the other kid's name. Lockhart. Yeah, Lockhart as the slot guy. So they already got 2 4 stars in that class. That's more than some group of five and power five teams have right now as we're sitting in mid-June. It's a problem, man. It's a whole problem. Yeah, the coach from Georgia was I believe he was the assistant strength and conditioning coach. They had two over there. I don't remember the other guy's name. He's been there the whole time. He's going to follow Kirby Smart to the end of time. He's worked on saving staffs and follow Kirby, but this guy, Maurice Sims, listen, up and comer in the business, man. Georgia had nothing but good things to say about him. He was a fast riser in that Georgia program, and I think when you look at what makes great teams great is the strength and conditioning coach behind the scenes, man, where they don't have a lot of injuries, where their stamina is there. They don't wear down late in the game. So strength and conditioning is a big part of a team that's really not talked about. So I do think it was a big addition there too. And they got a young guy who they can keep in the program for a while and become one of the faces of, behind the scenes in terms of strength and conditioning. Who want to bet Southern covers plus 21 spread against LSU? Guys, Davis says he is ready to bet that Southern will cover the 21-point spread against LSU. Let's see. Are you going to mirror your FCS HBCU poll to your FCS Bluebloods? Yes. I'm I'm dropping both of them, man. Listen, the FCS poll is probably going to drop on Monday morning, but yeah, I'm gonna drop both of those, and then these reactions will kind of encompass both of those too. So I'm definitely gonna be doing both of those. Did Blue explain how he feels about that Campbell JSU game? Does he listen? I have said this from from the jump. Campbell is not the best team in this matchup. Jackson State, in terms of a roster standpoint, is better than Campbell right now. I will give you that. Now, how we how the game plan, the execution, things like that, we'll see when we get there. But Jackson State, I've said this a lot. Jackson State has the better roster than Campbell, and I don't think Campbell fans are arguing that can or they shouldn't. They should not argue that Campbell has a better roster right now than Jackson State. I'm just telling you, it's not happening. Jackson State is the better team right now. Yes, Chris. Right now, listen, I have a schedule of games I'm going to. Um, for me, I believe the boombox is on there, but yeah, I'll let you know. But that's probably one of the games I'm going to. I know for a fact the games I have locked in right now, I'm going to Lorman to see Alcorn State versus Stephen F. Austin. I'm going to the Jackson State Tennessee State game, and I'm going to the Jackson State Campbell game. Those are the three games I have locked in stone right now. The rest of them, I got a list of games that I just got to kind of figure some things out in terms of logistics. But those are the things I'm definitely going to. And then the Boombox in Jackson is definitely probably going to be on the list. I'm just going to let you know. And then I'm also going to probably go to the Jackson State Texas Southern game. I've talked to Miss Angie and Mr. Rick, Andrew Body's mom and dad. They want me to ride out there for that one. So I'm probably going to be at Jackson State Texas Southern too. Let's see. Blue, have you seen the FCS rankings? Yeah, I saw the Athlon Sports, which is done by Craig Haley. Then I saw the Hero Sports done by Sam Herder. I've already kind of got my rankings together, Calvin. Mine are a little bit different. I will tell y'all, people keep asking me, Jackson State is in my top 25. And there's another HBCU program, my honorable mentions, or two HBCU programs in my honorable mentions, but Jackson State is in my top 25. A bunch of people was asking me about that, but Jackson State is in my rankings. I just want to let y'all know that. Let's see. How do you think a Jackson State versus Southeastern Louisiana matchup would go this year? This year, Jackson State would have a really good shot because they don't have Cole Kelly. They don't have their top wide receiver, like in Mitchell. They lost him. I believe they lost a few offensive linemen. They lost a lot of their front seven. Their secondary is returning all their starters. But Southeastern, they lost a lot of talent. I like Cephas at the quarterback spot, but I don't think Southeastern Louisiana would match up very well with JSU this year. Now, last year, I think that would have been a good game because you would have had a quarterback in Cole Kelly who could have challenged that secondary a bit, and they would have been able to spread out Jackson State and get some really good matchups. Now, could they handle James Houston is the big question. But this year, man, Jackson State, I would take Jackson State over Southeastern right now. Let's see. Let me go back through here. Let's see. Finisher said plus 21 at halftime for the game. Oh, man. Let's see. I'm ready to take bets. Give me 28. Oh, man. Let's see. We know how FAMU matchup would go. See, I want to know, do you think FAMU has upgraded their roster? Yeah, I think everyone in this SWAC just about has upgraded their roster. There's a few that I'm questioning. But in terms of the top teams, when you look at the Southerns, the Gramblings, Alabama A&Ms, the Jackson States, all those guys upgraded their roster. When you look at FAMU, I think they upgraded. Well, they really didn't have to upgrade the wide receiver spot. They returned everyone. I think they landed some really good offensive linemen that should be able to come in and play. They upgraded the running back spot. Destin Coates to some of those guys they brought in. They also brought in the 3-star from, I think, Coastal Carolina. When you look at the D-line, I think that's the one spot where I'm a little bit questioning if they completely upgraded, but they returned some big names in Isaiah Land and Gentle Hunt. The linebacker spot for me was the biggest spot they upgraded. Isaiah Majors is better than any linebacker they had on the roster last year. I really like what Majors is going to bring in terms of his versatility, being able to drop back into coverage, being able to play in the box, and also his athleticism as a pass rusher is really, really hard to handle. So I really like Majors there. I think at the corner spot, they did a really good job of upgrading there. Now, safety is tough. We'll see how Jordan Moore works out, and we'll see who they stick in that second safety spot. But to replace Marquise Bell and to replace Antoine Collier are going to be really, really difficult. So we'll see. But I think overall, looking at it, I do think FAMU did improve their roster this offseason. Let's see. Blue Wise, no one talking about Bethune-Cookman. Listen, the only people talking about Bethune-Cookman are the guy who they pulled his offer last second. I don't know if you guys saw that. One of the recruits came out and said that Bethune-Cookman had an offer, was bringing him on a visit, guaranteeing him a roster spot, and then pulled his offer at the last minute. That's the only Bethune-Cookman news I have seen. Let's see. Shador had a freshman game and threw 3 interceptions in their own territory to hand South Carolina State that game. Let's see. How big of a loss is Jaron Williams for Alabama A&M? Can they recover and compete for the SWAC title? It's a big loss. it really kind of depends how big it is, really depends on if behind the scenes he was the leader for the quarterback one position. If Quincy Casey was going to start, it might hurt in terms of a depth position, but if he wasn't starting, I don't think it affects the projections for Alabama A&M. And I think a lot of people thought that he was probably going to be QB2 to Quincy Casey, but I really think it depends on whether you think he was going to start for Alabama and A&M or not. 601, you're live.
Hey, what's up, Blue?
What's up, man?
Hey, I had to call in. I saw something ridiculous in the chat. I'm Jack fan all day, through and through. But if someone that say the SU is going to impact the LSU game, the SU fans, like Jack State fans, quote unquote, y'all be saying we're delusional, but hell, what is it? What crack pipe is that guy smoking?
I don't know, man. Listen, Southern fans are really confident. Listen, I don't know if you remember when they played who they played last year, Troy. There were a lot of Southern fans thinking they were going to win that game.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Hey, listen, they really do think they're going to beat LSU. I'm just going to let you know that. That is a true belief.
Yeah. Well, that's all. I mean, what you think about you talked about the Tim Brewster, you talked about Maurice. What about some of the analyst positions that they got? I think those are like the unsung, workers right there.
Man, I don't have the whole list of names in front of me, but I think whose video did I watch on it? It's either CFL's or Coach Walker's. One of them did a whole video on the staff, and I got to look up some of their resumes, man. Listen, resumes speak for themselves, and a lot of these guys have some really big experiences and really successful programs. And if they can all come together and bring that to Jackson State, man, I don't see how it's a bad thing. And really and truly, Jackson State has so much talent. It's almost like getting a whatever call it, like a Lambo, and just being like, don't crash it. Like, we got you the fastest car out here, just don't put it in the wall. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be hard not to win the SWAC this year with all the talent Jackson State has, but with all the coaching additions they have, it's really just even more reassurance, especially if that coaching staff starts gelling in the right way.
One more question. I know Jackson State's ranked in a couple of polls. Do you think anybody else can get in the playoffs, like, at large bid? Is it realistic?
Okay, talent-wise, yes. But what I think the SWAC is going to run into this year is last year was different because I don't know, because FAMU could get in. I think if it's not FAMU, the SWAC's out of luck because the problem is the second best team potentially could be like a Southern, and they can't go because of the Bayou Classic. Grambling's going to be good again. They can't go because of the Bayou Classic. And the problem you have with Alabama A&M is their first 4 games, they could be 0-3 because they got to play UAB, Troy, Austin Peay. And then after they get through that gauntlet, they have to go to FAMU and go play in Tallahassee.
And they lost Jaron Williams.
Yeah, and they just lost him. And then on top of that, you still got the Jackson State game coming up. You still got the Magic City Classic where Alabama State's taking a huge step forward. You're going to need Alabama A&M to pretty much almost win out. I mean, really and truly, after those first few games, like they can only lose one SWAC game. That's it. And they have to beat Austin Peay to even have a shot.
I agree. I mean, some people are saying some crazy stuff about that UAB game. I'm like, UAB returns like 15 starters. And that's the same UAB team that beat BYU in the bowl game last year. BYU was ranked.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember, week 1 last year, they beat Jacksonville State like 38-3.
Yeah.
And Jacksonville State's pretty damn good. Like they're about to go to FBS. And they play Jacksonville State week 1 again, I believe, before they play Alabama A&M. So for me, UAB won the CUSA title 2 years ago. I mean, they like Finisher said, they might be ranked this year at one point. So I don't think UAPB is just a gimme game like some people are saying.
UAB or UAPB?
Yeah, UAB. My bad. UAB. My bad. I was reading the comments and said UAPB. Yeah, no, UAPB might be an easy win.
I think I can get me a team together right now. Where I'm at, just be UAB Pine Bluff.
Listen, I'm gonna get 22 of y'all from the chat, and I'm gonna take y'all up to UAPB, and we're gonna have a game.
Yeah. All right, Blue.
Hey, appreciate the call, man.
I'll take it.
Let's see. I saw a few questions. S class. In Athlon, I believe the Athlon Sports, I believe Jackson State was like 22, and in the Hero Sports, Jackson State was like 17 or somewhere in there. So they're around like the top 20, top 25 area in terms of both polls. Let's see. I hope LSU people are not watching this. If so, 50. Oh man. Let's see. I saw a good question. And are you talking about breaking the attendance record at LSU? I don't even know what the attendance record is. The attendance record has to be crazy, right? I don't know what their attendance record is. Let's see. Do you truly believe that an HBCU now could go as far as an FCS playoffs, not saying win the championship? I would say this year, I definitely think a team could win a game. Like, I mean, listen, last year I picked FAMU. I don't know if you guys remember that. I picked FAMU in the against Southeastern Louisiana in that first round. I really did think that they could win that game. I didn't think it would be a blowout like it ended up being. So I do think that if Tennessee State gets in, FAMU potentially could get in, or even if North Carolina A&T wins the Big South and gets in, I think personally they could win a game. I don't think it's this like HBCUs can't win a game. I mean, I picked FAM to win last year, and I think if Jackson State loses the game and gets in the playoffs, depending on their matchup, they could win a game too. What's up, caller? You're live.
Hey, this is Steve again, Blue. How you doing?
What's up, man?
Also, Jacksonville State, they beat Florida State too.
Oh yeah, they did. I think it was the week after, right?
I think so. In the beginning of the season, yeah, I know. I don't know about their quarterback was a Clemson transfer, but
yeah.
Even back to Florida State. Do you think it's time for Prime to move on? I mean, I know he's the HBCU revolutionary, but I mean, I know it's time for Mike Norvell to go if he can't cut it this year. And they play LSU first game. What you think about it?
Listen, Florida State, I don't think it's going to be very good. Just in my opinion, I think they get beat by LSU week 1. In terms of the ACC, I think Miami's better. I think Wake Forest is better. Clemson's better. Boston College is better. Pitt's going to be better again. Virginia Tech potentially. For me, I don't see Florida State being very good, and I don't see Prom going to Florida State, especially after this season. Listen, I already said it. If he leaves, is going to be after Shador graduates. He's not going to leave while Shador is still in college. I'm just going to put it out there.
Okay.
And
yes, sir.
I do think Norvell could get fired this year, but I don't think Prom would even consider leaving Jackson State as long as Shador and Shiloh are still in college.
But that's the crib, though. That's the crib.
Hey, they didn't want him at first. I mean, listen, it was going to be if Prom took a coaching job, Shador and Shiloh had to come. That would just be it. And I don't think he would leave, especially after what happened after the Travis Hunter commitment, all the drama. Listen, Coach Prom will be at Jackson State until 2024 or 2025, in my opinion. And then, yeah, I think his daughter.
Last question.
Go ahead.
I know his daughter's playing basketball. Sorry about that.
Yeah, his daughter is a senior in high school right now.
Okay. Last question, Blue. Uh, is Aubrey Miller or is your preseason defensive player of the year or Isaiah Lamb? Because Aubrey Miller is the man. I'm from FAMU. I mean, I'm voting for Lamb, but Aubrey Miller is, hey man, he's Tyson like, man. You know what I'm saying?
Um, for me, if I had to put money on a defensive player of the year, I'm putting it on Jason Dumas this year, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because
Go ahead.
oh, I was about to say, just for me, he had a dominant season last year and was in the running, and that was with no help. Like nobody can name another defensive lineman on PV last year. Now he gets to be surrounded by Trey Lang, Jordan Lewis. You can't triple team him anymore. I think he's going to just dominate. And if Southern makes a run to the SWAC championship game, I think Jason Dumas gets the nod.
Nice. Okay. Thanks for taking my call, Blue. Sorry
Hey,
for that,
for sure, man. Appreciate it. Whew, man, Steve's trying to get me on the hot seat in here, talking about prom leaving. Oh my lord, he's gonna get me in trouble. But yeah, underscore. I think an HBCU right now could get to the second, maybe the quarterfinal round, depending on the matchups, and really underscore there's a lot of talent in the FCS right now. I'm really happy to see it. It's all about matchups, in my opinion. I think when you look at matchups, if North Dakota State, South Dakota State get a bad matchup, they could lose. Look at what happened with North Dakota State. They caught Sam Houston and James Madison those 2 years. It just depends on matchups, really and truly. Let's see. 678, you're live.
What's going on, Blue? This is Lawrence from Atlanta.
Hey, what's up, man?
Got a quick question. Based off of your preseason rankings, you have JSU versus Southern, a rematch for the SWAC title.
Mm-hmm.
You have South Carolina State repeating in the MEAC.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about a potential first round game between North Carolina A&T versus Davidson, because they only 84 miles apart, and Florida A&M versus Mercer in the first round?
Okay, let's see. I like A&T's chances against Davidson, really and truly, because I think when you look at athletes, they probably match up because Davidson has some really good players coming back from last year at the wide receiver spot and the running back spot. But for me, I think shockingly, A&T could win it just off the line of scrimmage, man. Really and truly, I think they're going to be bigger and more physical than Davidson in the front seven on defense and on the offensive line. And so I think they could grind Davidson out in the long run, depending on where that game was too. I think I would feel confident, especially if it was at home. But if they had to go up to Davidson, which isn't a super far trip, I still like A&T, man. I think A&T would beat Davidson right now if I had to put money on it. And FAMU and Mercer. Look, you called me, man, because you follow me on Twitter and you hear me talk. I really like Mercer this year. I think they could win
Yeah,
the
I like
SoCon.
Mercer too. I love Mercer.
They return so much talent. Right now, I would pick FAMU in a close one. I do not think FAMU would blow out Mercer, though, and I don't think it would be opposite. I think that would be a one-score game, but just due to the impact players that are coming back for FAMU and like an Isaiah Land, Terrell Jennings, Gentle Hunt, I think Jordan Moore at the safety spot. I'm going to slightly pick FAMU, but I think that game would be a one-score game, man. I really do. Oh my lord, man, that would be a good game. I
Yeah,
would
because
sign up for that.
if it's at FAMU, I pick it FAMU. If it's at Mercer, I kind of go with Mercer. Whoever can get that home field will win because both fan bases are very rapid. So whoever can get
Mercer
that home game, that's really going to determine who's going to win. And my last question, like, where do you have Tennessee State going in the playoffs? Because their geographical area is very unique.
Mm-hmm.
They can go to the first round versus a Missouri Valley team because they're close. I don't see them going south to a Southland or a WAC school because I think they're going to face each other in the first round. Who do you got them potentially playing in the first round? Because I'm thinking from my playoff poll, I kind of got them going north. I don't know who, but I do got them going north versus a MVFC team.
They would have to. The problem with Tennessee State is they're in the conference with all the other Tennessee teams. So they couldn't play UT Martin because they would have already played them. Because in the first round, they avoid rematches. So they couldn't play UT Martin. They couldn't play Tennessee Tech if they made it. Their best hope, man, really and truly, could they get matched up with Austin P potentially?
That's a good one. Oh man, because
And
I got
man,
Kennesaw. I actually got Kennesaw State getting the first round bye, so it is possible though.
and with yeah, because I don't see the champ. Well, oh, it'd be tough though. Yeah, because I mean, they would have to pick it. Listen, I'll say this: whoever's on the committee, if we can get Draylon Ellis in a revenge game against Austin P in the first round, sign me up for that.
Yeah.
And finish your finish your
Tennessee State is going to have the hardest part.
Oh yeah,
they're going to have the hardest. For them, they're in a bad predicament than either HBCU team, because like you say, it depends on who else qualifies. If FAMU qualifies and Mercer doesn't get the first round bye, that's an automatic first round game. If East Tennessee, I don't know. It's a good question. It could go against East Tennessee, because I do think that it's going to be at least two teams for the SoCon that will make the playoffs. That's good.
And then Chattanooga.
But all right, man, I'm going to get back off and get on the chat, man. I'll go ahead and listen to the rest of the show.
Hey, appreciate you, man.
All right,
man. That's a good question. I also do like who got UT Chattanooga, man. They're going to be good this year. They're in my top 25 too. That could be a matchup too. I've totally forgot about them. But yeah, I would say a SoCon team, Austin P, they would have a chance in. But if Tennessee State gets matched up with an MVFC team, that's going to be a tough one, especially if they get, God forbid, like if Missouri State doesn't get a bye week or something like that, that's going to be a brutal game to go heads up again. Let's see. How do you feel about Texas Southern? Listen, I like Texas Southern. I think offensive line is going to be hard, much improved this year. I think Andrew Body should take a step forward. I don't know if you guys saw, he's training with the QB trainer with Cameron Ward, Shador Sanders, and a bunch of other high-level quarterbacks. I think his passing takes the next step this year. Wide receiver is the one spot where they're going to have a lot of new names. I'm interested to see who steps up there. Running back Ladarius Owens comes back, All-American. I like what he brings. On defense, though, they're going to have to replace Michael Badajo at the DN spot. Tyler Martinez at defensive tackle is going to be a problem. I heard linebackers looking really, really good right now throughout spring and summer workouts. And in the secondary, Isaiah Hamilton, Perry Wells, and some of those guys look like they're going to take the next step. So I think Texas Southern is not going to be a pushover team. When you see Texas Southern on your schedule, man, you're going to have to come and play. So I do like their ability to improve. They were an honorable mention in my top 10 poll, but right now, until I see it put on the field, I can't put it on my top 10. Let's see. Yeah, I think Chattanooga, they lost by like three or four or something like that. Let's see. Will A&T stay within 15 of North Dakota State? No. Right now, I gotta say no. They got to go play in Fargo week 2. Right now, I like North Dakota State by like 17 to 21, somewhere in there. I can't. Right now, I can't say they're going to keep it within 15 on the road in the Fargo Dome that early in the season. Let's see. I felt like I missed a question up here. What do you think about McNeese? It was a big pickup to get Ala Brown from Jackson State at the slot wide receiver. But listen, I like their quarterback. Walker Wood, going to be a stud in my opinion. He was a transfer from Kentucky, was the Lexington Player of the Year in high school, had like 4,000 yards rushing, over 150 total touchdowns in high school. He's a dual threat guy. I think he's a huge improvement over Cody Orgeron, who they had last year. They returned their top 2 leading receivers to combine with Ala Brown in the slot. Their offensive line, it was young last year. They come back. The defense is going to have to replace Isaiah Chambers at the DN spot. But in terms, I think their defense will probably be the biggest question mark for me right now. But I think their offense at McNeese takes a huge step forward. I think that game against, I believe, Alcorn week 3 is going to be a game that I'm really, really interested to see in. Let's see. I want to see Valley play Texas Southern for real. A mythical matchup: JSU versus Holy Cross. That's such a weird matchup, Coach Green. Jesus. Um, I think it'd be a good matchup. Holy Cross was really good last year. Holy Cross was in the playoffs last year. I believe one of their own 10-2 or 11-2. I know one of their losses was to Harvard. Um, right now, just in terms of pure talent, probably Jackson State. That's I think it'd be a one-score game, Coach Scream. I think Holy Cross is really good. They're in my top 15 in my FCS poll, so I think they got a lot of returning talent. I believe Saluka comes back at quarterback. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but I believe it's Saluka. They got a lot of talent, man. One-score game right now. Who do you think can stop Kennesaw's option attack? Hmm. Listen, nobody in the A-Sun. If I had to guess, Doc, I'm saying Kennesaw probably runs through the A-Sun. I think they go undefeated in the conference. They have a really, really good chance to potentially go almost undefeated. I don't remember which FBS teams on the roster, but in terms of FCS games, I like them to potentially go undefeated. They return Xavier Shepard, who is the Big South Offensive Player of the Year. They do lose the linebacker Evan something, but then they return like the next 8 top returners on the defensive side of the ball. So I think with the talent they have coming back and just the scheme difficulty to prepare for, especially if you with just a week to prepare, unless you get them off a bye week, I like Kennesaw against almost everybody. Um, just in terms of the A-Sun right now, I think they have a chance right now, Doc, to be a top 8 seed in the FCS playoffs next year. Who has the best HBCU for the playoffs? I'm going to say S class right now, Tennessee State. The reason I say Tennessee State is because the SWAC doesn't have an auto bid. The MEAC doesn't have an auto bid. And North Carolina A&T, I've, for me, I don't feel like has the explosiveness or it factor to get to the playoffs and be as big of a factor. If Tennessee State can get through the OVC and win that conference, get that auto bid, and depending on that matchup, I think they got some room to make some noise. But with FAMU and Jackson State having so much how much, let's see, uncertainty to get in, I don't love them as the number one team for the HBCU playoffs. Let's get barbecue blue. Bet, man. Yeah, I will let the channel know what games I'm going to, man, and that way y'all can catch up. Got any insight on JSU's developing O line? For me, I've talked to a few people, won't give them names. I got some player parents I talked to, things like that over at Jackson State. I've heard really, really good things about Evan Henry, but a lot of their guys, Israel, they haven't made it to campus yet. I don't think Tyler Brown's there. I'm pretty sure Zach Bro's not there. And so in the spring game, you saw a lot of guys who were mixing and matching and probably not playing the positions that they were going to play. So I think I'm going to hold off Israel until they get their whole squad there. I think throughout the summer, getting those workouts in together, building that chemistry up during the summer is going to be the number one thing. But right now, I think the talent is there. I think the leadership is there, especially in a Zach Bro and a Tyler Brown, where those guys have been on offensive lines, even Evan Henry, that were extremely successful and they know what it takes to work together and bond together as an offensive line. So I would say give it some time. I think we'll know more by the end of July, early August right now. Caller, you're live.
Hey, Blue and Steve, man.
What's up, man?
I don't want to get you in trouble, but I got to ask you this. What about East Tennessee State? Shout out to the last guy talking about the playoff bids. What about East Tennessee State? That was pretty good. They played a tough North Dakota State, but what about East Tennessee State? And I have another question after that.
East Tennessee State, the reason I have question marks, they lose Quay Holmes, who was third place in the Walter Payton Award race at the running back spot. He was their whole team, and he left. They lost their head coach, and they that whole coaching staff is kind of having a overhaul. So with that uncertainty, I would tailor expectations on ETSU right now. Last year's team was completely different, one of the best teams in the FCS, but I don't, for me, they're not a top 15 program right now, just based off of the uncertainty they have at key positions.
Okay. And also, can North Dakota State beat South Dakota State, please? That Rock's been at South Dakota State for a minute now.
It's going to be tough this year. I don't think people realize Mark Gronkowski is back for South Dakota State after missing the entire fall season, and he was
Yes,
the
sir.
MVFC Offensive Player of the Year in the spring, and he's going to be a problem. Listen, in my opinion, he has the ability right now to be the best quarterback in the FCS. And he was the key reason
Right.
South Dakota State almost won the national title in the spring. So South Dakota State's not going to be a pushover. I think right now they're right there with North Dakota State in terms of the favorites for the FCS championship.
Okay. And one last question. Why can't two SWAC teams go to the first round? Because I know like they had a Northern Iowa team that went in the playoffs with 5 losses. Are they trying to stick it to the HBCUs or what?
No, I don't think so. So the problem that the SWAC runs into is the second team in the East is probably going to go in terms of whether it's FAMU, Jackson State, potentially A&M, depending on how they get through the early part of the season. The reason that 2 SWAC teams are going to be tough to get in is because the second place team any given year in the SWAC West probably can't even go, because most of the time it's been Southern or Grambling in that second place spot, and they have the Bayou Classic the week of the first round of the playoffs, so they can't
Oh, you
go,
mentioned
and
that.
so
You
that
mentioned
eliminates so
that.
many people.
All right, man. Thanks for my call. Last call, man. I'm sorry about that, man.
Hey, no, man, you're good. As many questions as possible, man. Have a good one.
All right.
Let's see. Explain why no one has any confidence in Grambling. This is really a shocker to me. They had a good recruiting class. I don't think, for me, I have confidence in Grambling. I mean, I had them in my top 10. The reason I couldn't have them any higher is because they haven't played together. You have a new coach, like an entirely new scheme. So therefore, I need to see it on the field first. I think I had them 8 in my rankings, and that's higher than HBCU Game Day or any of the other polls had. I think they're going to be good. I just want to see it first before I put them in my top 5 or anything like that. But Grambling will be fine, man. They brought in a lot of talent. Love Maurice Washington. Love what they brought in with J.R. Waters and the Tyson Boudreaux at the wide receiver spot. I need to see it though on the field.
Day or any of the other polls had.
Coach Green, you're back. What's up, man?
I got one for you. Kennesaw State offense versus JSU defense. How you see that matchup?
This year or last year?
Last year.
Oh man, you really, man, y'all are out here trying to really get me in trouble with the JSU fans. Jesus Christ. Man, I've had questions about prom leaving. I've had questions about all this stuff. This is crazy. Last year, I would have taken Kennesaw in a game. The run, listen, the scheme was so much different. And when I look at the JSU defensive line, they were great. The best in the SWAC, arguably one of the best in the FCS. They were not the best in run defense. They've specialized in pass rushing. So I think with Kennesaw's scheme, how long they've been running it, Jackson State saw no triple option teams last year. With Xavier Shepard and all that experience they had, I would have slightly chosen Kennesaw's offense, just because, I mean, you got to remember, man, they were averaging like 300 yards a game rushing last year. They were different, man. Now this year, I think you got a little bit more of a debate. I think Jackson State's defensive line is a bit more balanced, and also Kennesaw lost some contributors along the defense, so it'd probably be a better game. But if we're talking strictly last year, I probably would have chosen Kennesaw, because they also are cut from that same cloth, similar to South Carolina State, where they would have just tried to come out there and punch Jackson State in the mouth and get them off their game.
But this is the biggest difference between South Carolina State and Kennesaw when it comes to the offensive part. 6'5" receiver and somebody that can just throw it up to him.
I mean,
I
I
don't know
agree
about
with.
I don't know about their wide receivers at Kennesaw State.
I mean, they don't use them. I mean, they run a triple option offense, man. I think, well, if I remember
and
right,
and
Shepherd had 15 passing touchdowns, but they were kind of off of
mhm,
like red zone trick plays type stuff. They really didn't throw it a lot, but if they did, it was either a super deep shot or something in the red zone.
yeah, because this is the thing about the thing I just watching DT, the defensive coordinator, watching his scheme. If if you one dimensional, it's like it's at his advantage
Yeah.
because of the scheme he run. Because he damn near sitting in the house and everybody playing man to man.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the offense is not going to pass the football for Kennesaw State. Their goal is to run it. I think last year they would have matched up really well with Jackson State's front seven, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about this year. We'll kind of see because Kennesaw has some big losses. Jackson State is going to have some new
Yeah.
faces on the D line, but the defensive tackle spot this year, man, especially after Katron Evans and Devontae Davis got to progress in a year in the system, especially Katron Evans, is so tough as a true
Mm-hmm.
freshman to come in and make an
Mm-hmm.
impact on the defensive line. I think Katron
Yeah.
Evans right now would be my pick for one of the breakout players for Jackson State. I don't know if some of the Jackson State channels or guys agree with me on this, but I like Katron Evans' ceiling just about as much as anyone on that Jackson State team over this year and next year.
I do too. Now I got a real game for you that's actually gonna happen. I got two of them, matter of fact, two different games, and I'm gonna hang up and listen. Tennessee State versus Eastern Washington. Alcorn versus Stephen F. Austin.
Stephen F. Austin will beat Alcorn by 14 plus, in my opinion, especially week one. Because you got to think, man, we know what it is when schools lose quarterbacks the caliber of Felix Harper. It's so hard to overcome that. And I know the Allen kid from Louisiana Tech is really talented and has some potential, but to come out week one in a new scheme, you don't know, you have a completely rebuilt offensive line, your wide receiving core is really rebuilt after outside of one person, and your whole defensive line will probably be different. Your two starting linebackers will probably be different. You're having a new starting safety outside of Cage Kinsler. I'm thinking of Jawan Taylor. Man, Stephen F. Austin is, for me, a potential top 5 team in FCS. To get that week one with such an inexperienced team, that is just a recipe for disaster, man.
Yeah. I put it like this. This is my opinion on it. The 12th man need to step up because since it's at Alcorn, the 12th man need to be D. And Allen got to play out his mind.
Yeah. I agree.
And now what about Tennessee State and Eastern Washington?
I like Tennessee State's chances. Now, the trip is tough. The stadium's going to be tough. I mean, I don't think people realize this. Eastern Washington's something like 30-2 over the last few years at home. And the only teams to beat them were like Montana and Montana State, I'm pretty sure, or maybe Weber. But they don't lose much on the red turf, man. It's different. But they don't have Eric Barrier. They lost their 2 top wide receivers, I believe. I believe they lost their leading rusher as well. They got a lot of holes, man, and they got a lot of young guys. And so it's pretty much like the flip side of my argument with Alcorn. You just apply it to Eastern Washington. They both get lucky it's at home, and it's a long trip for Tennessee State. But when you're looking at talent right now, I like Tennessee State over Eastern Washington. It's going to be a tough game, but if Tennessee State wins that game, Tennessee State's going to be ranked in the top 25 of FCS the next week. I guarantee that.
For sure. All right, that's all I had to ask, Blue.
Hey, man, I appreciate you.
All right.
All right, guys. I'm looking for the next caller. We're going to wrap it up here in about 5 to 10 minutes, man, so we can go watch the NBA finals and all that. Appreciate the callers, put me on the spot with all the JSU fans. Eastern Washington defense is never good. I haven't seen Burgess in any of the past videos. I'd paint the practice field red for the week of that game. I love it. Let's see. But a few schools played Kennesaw well. North Alabama was one of them. They weren't very good. Yeah, North Alabama wasn't very good. They played a lot of people close, though, Lawrence. They played a lot of people close. The Poly kid in Middleton isn't at JSU yet. Now, Aaron, I don't know about Middleton, so I messaged him. Okay, I'll put it all here because he's cool with it because he knows what it is. I messaged Middleton to do a featured story on our website about his transfer to JSU. He said he wanted to hold off. He said that he's just committed right now and that he wants to take his visits before like signing or making a final decision. So I don't know what's going on with Middleton just yet, but if he sticks with JSU, we'll see what that turns out to be. Caller, you're live.
What's going on, Blue? This is Doc, man.
What's up, man?
Hey, man. I have a question. So the status, I want to know about the status of how James Madison is going through with their transition to FBS.
I think year one. Okay, they're going to be better. I think they're going to be more talented year one than some of the other programs who are moving up in soon, like in like a Sam Houston or a Jacksonville State. But my thing with James Madison is they're going to the harder conference. The Sun Belt is going to be a gauntlet for group of 5 teams. You look at that conference, you got Louisiana Lafayette just was ranked in the top 15. Coastal Carolina just was in the top 10 a few years ago, has one of the best quarterbacks in the country. You also got Appalachian State. We know what they are. That conference is so deep. I think James Madison this year, if you can win 5 to 6 games, you give them an A+ for the year.
And one more question. Nobody really hasn't talked about Mississippi Valley because it's Valley, but what do you think Valley's chances are to be over 500 this year as far as in playing in conference?
I gotta let me pull up their schedule real quick. That way I can kind of go through the games. So you want to know what the chances are that they go over 500?
Yeah, at least 500. Like like 6-6, 6-5, 7-5.
All right, let's see. They got to oh man, that the first 2 games, Jesus Christ. They got to travel to Tarleton State, who just recently came up from D2, has 2 straight winning records straight out of D2 already. They're going to be tough. They got Stephen Duncan at quarterback. Their wide receivers are loaded. That's going to be a tough game. And I don't know how many people know this. Tarleton just expanded their stadium in only their second year of the FCS. They have like a top 5 stadium in FCS right now. That's going to be a tough game. It's on a Thursday. I think they lose to Tarleton State right now. Just right now, man, especially on the road. Then they travel to Austin Peay. That's probably an L2 on the road back to back. They'll beat Delta State week 3. I'm going to give them losses to Jackson State and FAMU on the road. Alcorn will be a good game. You get that one in Itabena. Depending on what Alabama State is, potentially you could win that game. I like them over Bethune-Cookman. I like them over PV. Alabama A&M is going to be tough. You get that one at home, and I'm going to give them an L on Southern. I'm going to that's tough. I'm going to say 30 to 35% chance they make it out 500.
Okay. But I feel like that with Valley, with the home field advantage as far as the field goals, not with the people, but as the field goals, they have a big advantage of that because they're like a different team when they're at home. And then, too, I feel like Coach Dancy has been doing a good job as far as getting recruits to come to Valley and knowing that Valley doesn't have the actual money, monetary resources to get people to come to the school. But I feel like that they're doing a good job as far as doing the recruiting and stuff like that.
Man, he's doing a hell of a job. I think I saw where their budget's like $4 million. That's
Hmm.
ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
that is unbelievable that they even win a game. Really and truly, the fact that you with $4 million you can even win a game, I I don't know. I don't know how that's even possible. But for me, I think the team's good enough to get to 500. They're gonna have to pull off some upsets, but man, it's just tough, man, to have road games against Tarleton, Austin P, Jackson State, FAMU, and Southern. Man, that's brutal. I mean, that's probably your 5 toughest games all on the road away from Itabena. So that's gonna be really tough to overcome, but a lot of people counted them out last year, and they were, a few like a few plays away from potentially even challenging Jackson State in that game.
Okay. And well, that's. I mean, I guess that's all it is. All I have because nobody really talks about Valley. Nobody, talk about the lower teams like UAPB, anything like that, because don't know what's going on with that team and
I
everything like
tried.
that.
Man,
But
I tried to talk about him. I did an episode on a player committing, and then he flipped the next day to Southern. I'm like, I can't win over here.
mm. All right, man. You have a good one, bro.
Hey, appreciate the call, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mississippi, that's a whole nother issue on that one. Yeah, man. So I got all my FCS helmets from 417helmets.com, man. Shout out to my guys over there, 417 helmets. These are all the ones they had already kind of custom made. Listen, okay, this is a great chance, man. Listen, this is a great chance. Yeah, 417 helmets is where I got all these. I need to find an updated Jackson State helmet. Listen, I could not find a new Jackson State helmet. Like, I either want one of the chrome ones or one of the old school ones with the red and blue stripes across. I'll drop a picture on the Twitter. I know I'm horrible at explaining it. I need an updated Jackson State helmet, and I'm trying to think. I need a Southern helmet. I got to get me a Southern helmet too. That's the next two on my list. Also got to get me a South Dakota State helmet too. But I got a good bit of helmets right now. Shout out to 417 helmets. If you're looking for custom FCS mini helmets, those are your guys right there, man. They do a hell of a job. Bama State, I think it's going to be an interesting season. I think if D Davis can get that starting QB role, they have a great chance to do something special. They landed Lockhart from North Carolina A&T. The wide receiving core returned some top pieces. The running back spot looks really good for them as well with Ja'Cory Merritt, even after Ezra Gray graduated. Now on defense, I love what they got at like the safety spot. I think the linebacker spot looks really good. I do want to see how they replace Clark at the defensive tackle spot and who's going to rush the passer. I'm really questioning it on how they're going to get to the passer. I don't think they have any DNs that really stand out to me off the top of my head. So those are my questions for Bama State. Let's see. 417 helmets. Hang on, let me see. I'm gonna try to get the link and drop it in there for you guys. But yeah, they got a bunch of different helmets, man. So shout out to them for helping me decorate the back, man. Let's see. You may have to get a UAPB coach on show to find out what they're doing. I might, man. All right, let me drop this in the thing for y'all. All right, I posted the link to 417 helmets in the chat. So let's see, happened that linebacker Bubba. He's still there. I believe Bubba's still there if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, but I do think Bubba is still there at the linebacker spot. That's why I said linebacker spot's fine. North Dakota State helmet makes great. Jesus. Let's see. Yeah, here's the link 417helmets.com. They don't have all FCS schools, but they have a majority. So I still got to order some more. Well, hang on. Lawrence, call back in. I just saw your call, man. I was trying to drop the link. Lawrence, call in. You'll be our last caller, and then we're all going to go watch the finals. Who are y'all rooting for in the finals, man? Listen, I'm a Celtics fan, so I'm hoping the Celtics get to pull it out. We got drugged last game. Don't even want to talk about that one. Okay, listen, I postponed it just because just I'll get to this in a second. What's up, Lawrence? You're live.
Yeah, one last question. If Stephen F. Austin goes undefeated in the WAC and Kennesaw goes undefeated in the A-Sun, who do you think they're going to get the at-large bid? I mean, not at-large bid, but the auto bid to?
Mm, I'm not sure, honestly.
Because both teams will make the playoffs regardless. It's just
Yes.
who will they give the auto bid? Is it probably going to be the team that's highest ranked in the, I guess, whatever the committee's poll, or because the reason why I ask that question, because it does play a huge factor of who's going to get that first round bye, because I do think that both teams will be around 7 and 8. Well, Kennesaw State will be probably like 3 and 4, but
Yeah.
Stephen F. Austin can definitely get that 8th seed.
Looking at the schedules, I think Stephen F. Austin has a really good shot to maybe jump Kennesaw. If they can beat Sam Houston this year, I think they're going to get really, really rewarded in the polls for that win.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
think it would
yeah.
probably
Because I kind of asked that question is because week 1 of the HBCU football is probably the best week 1 in history. With
oh
the
yeah.
Orange Blossom Classic, the Tennessee State, Eastern Washington, the North Carolina A&T, North Carolina Central. Like week 1 is basically like probably gonna be the best football we're gonna see in a while in HBCU. And I was just asking because if Alcorn can pull the upset, and even though Stephen F. Austin wins the rest of their games, because they got Jacksonville State week 0.
Yes, in Montgomery.
So they got 2 FBS teams, technical FBS teams on their schedule, and if Alcorn can pull the upset, we probably get. I don't know, because I do have that question of how Alcorn can make the playoffs if they need Grambling or Southern to lose to make them go. That little situation where if Grambling lose, then Alcorn goes to the SWAC title. If Southern wins, then Southern goes. I do have that question myself. What's that provision is?
They would have to beat Stephen
I don't
F.
know.
Austin. They'd have to beat McNeese because they got McNeese week
Hmm.
3, if I'm not mistaken. So their only 2 losses would have to be to like Southern, and then whoever they play is their FBS game, which I don't remember off the top of my head. They have to go
Tulane.
9-2. They would have to, with a win over Stephen F.
Yeah,
Austin.
yeah, they have to, because if they don't beat Stephen F. Austin, then they playoff chances are done, and they just might as well just really focus on winning the SWAC title. And they, in my opinion, outside of Southern, got the hardest conference schedule in the West.
They got a
Outside of
brutal
Southern,
schedule. An
it's
absolutely
hard
brutal schedule.
because I don't trust them playing Jackson State to win the West, because I don't trust that.
Hey,
But all right, Blue, I'm gonna get off because I know the game about to be on.
hey, appreciate you, man.
No problem.
Leave my man alone. Let's see. Guys, Coach Green, come on, man. If Southern was to beat LSU, how high would they go? I don't know. If it happens, we'll address it. Okay. Well, if it happens, Coach Green, I will come on here and have a show just for you where we talk about where Southern belongs in the top 25 if they beat LSU. Okay. Man, I ain't been here for a minute and I see the same people saying the same stuff. Ain't saying no names. Hey, man, I appreciate you, man. Let's see. Yes, SWAC Media Day. I believe credentials are going out pretty soon. But yeah, I'm gonna apply. Hopefully everything goes good there. There ain't no funny business. But yes, I will be at SWAC Media Day. I got a bunch of ideas already for coverage for you guys. So not only am I gonna be able to record and upload just the overall press conferences for each coach and the prospective players who get picked, but I also am probably gonna have a table set up where I can get individualized interviews and things like that with various coaches, ADs, and players, man. So I got a lot of ideas for SWAC Media Days. I will be there, man. Don't worry about that. Let's see. I was going to address these last few questions. There are a lot of SWAC candidates on there. Yes, I made sure to represent the SWAC. I think if I remember right, I don't remember. I got FAMU, Alabama A&M, Alcorn, um, I got South Carolina State and Tennessee State, but I think that's it right now for SWAC schools on that. Let's see. I swore. So Coach Green, I postponed it just because I was getting the website together, man. I had to design the whole website myself and everything like that. Um, Top 5 FCS quarterbacks are coming soon. I'm gonna drop a list on our website and do a whole video on it. I already got my list together, honorable mentions. Instead of doing like a 1 through 5, I'm gonna do a tier 1 and then a tier 2, where the tier 1 is gonna be my top 5 quarterbacks, and tier 2s are a bunch of honorable mention guys who I think, if they have big years, can be there. I'm gonna do top 5 FCS positional rankings for every single position. So we'll start with quarterback, go through offense, and go on to defense leading up into the season. So this is the best time of year, man. We really get to break down these teams now that the rosters are pretty set. Mr. Moore, I'm down whenever, man. Listen, one, you got to tell Nugget to follow me back on social media, man. I'm a little offended, Mr. Moore. You got to tell him, to follow me back on social media, but we'll get Nugget on here soon, man. I know a lot of people are wanting to get on that, hear that interview and me do that interview, man. We've had over 100 interviews. I can't believe Nugget's not one. So, Mr. Moore, hit me up, tell Nugget too, man, and we'll get that one out there. Hey, appreciate the love on the website, man. Blue, I will put the place for the JSU mini helmets in the comment section after the show. Bet, man. As soon as you do that, I'm gonna get a JSU helmet on there. I need to do that for sure. Let's see. Ask Coach Maynard if he has any desire to coach on a higher level if you get the press pass. I got you, man. I definitely will do that. Also, I need to ask him. There are a lot of rumors about Coach Maynard going to North Carolina A&T if they decide to fire their coach after this year. So that's going to be interesting. Interview Jeremiah Brown. Listen, I got a lot of interviews coming up. I got a lot of players who were just busy and we kind of postponed it. I got some big names that I'm going to try to get on the show very, very soon, man. So make sure to go check out the ones we've done. Go check out all of the recruiting updates we've done. Last question here. Are you attending the Scooter Bowl? Yes, man. That's in my hometown of Mobile. I'm recording in Mobile right now, so I will definitely be at the Scooter Bowl between Alabama A&M, Jackson State, in Mobile. But man, guys, I appreciate y'all. Listen, I promise we're going to do more live streams more often. It's been over a month. I know the live streams are really where you guys can call in, get y'all's questions in. So appreciate y'all on that. Listen, the link to the website is in our about section or our homepage. Also, it's on Twitter. We have our full HBCU preseason top 10 rankings. Make sure to go check it out and everything like that. But man, guys, appreciate y'all support so much. But until next time, guys, the Blue Bloods are out.